Sunday Night Live, usually at about 6 or 7 p.m. We'll call it the day of or the day before. Thank you so much for making it. Really appreciate our viewers, our community members, and we're going to be sharing some excellent information from community members brought to us over the week. Now, you can email us at Johnny's Car Care and Reviews at gmail.com, and that's the one time where we use just one N in Johnny. The rest of the time, two N's for Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. Now, this evening, we're talking about the UAW strike impacting production at GMC, Dodge, Ram, and Ford. We're going to be talking about a whole lot more as well. We're going to be talking about pretty much all the negative effects and some positive things to keep in mind so that you know how price is being affected, because you can still get a good deal even though there's a strike. And we'll tell you why. So don't let anyone fool you and say, no, there's a strike, we have to charge dealer markup, or there's no rebate on this model because of the strike, there's rarity, and they try to act like it's 2 years ago all over again. That's not the case, and we have proof to share with you tonight so that you have the proof, you have the facts, and you can save thousands of dollars. So that's what we're here to do for our community. It's to help you save thousands of dollars and know what's going on in the automobile world. So we want to be as helpful as possible, and please help us as much as possible by hitting the thumbs up button, subscribe, and the bell notification, because well, that helps get the word out. The real deal. We're not just looking for crazy, wild, outrageous headlines that don't help you learn anything to get a good deal on vehicles or avoid overpaying. We cover the real deal here at Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. We try to put the pedal to the metal as much as possible. So we're also going to be talking about the Ford transmission lawsuit on the 10R80 10-speed transmission. Folks, that's your 10-speed transmission at Ford, built in conjunction or engineered in conjunction with GM. There have been known issues. I'm going to be talking about those issues and what you really need to worry about. How bad is it? We'll cover the real deal. I'm at a dealer, I have shares in a dealer, and I've got things to share with you, the real deal to share with you, because, well, I'm an insider. Now, we also have Toyota and Honda news. We're going to be talking about how Toyota and Honda buyers, shoppers, owners are screwed. So that's a title based off of, and actually it was insinuated a far harsher word on one of my favorite channels, Car Edge. They share absolutely the best data, but we're going to cover really our take on that with what we really think we can tell you about Toyota and Honda buyers being screwed. Suggest maybe what you should buy instead. It's going to be a very different suggestion than Car Edge, because I don't agree with who they're insinuating you could buy. Now, we're also going to be talking about a Bronco buyer experience. So we got a Bronco buyer experience and a good dealer and a good sales rep to share from somewhere where I thought there were no deals to be had. I thought everyone in Florida and California were getting ripped off. The rip-off states for car sales, California and Florida. I've said it before, and I've got good news, nice news, and a wonderful buying experience to share. I think a lot of it comes down to the buyer being well-informed and smart. They watch the show pretty much every week, so they're well-informed. They know what to say and what to do to not get horsed around. Now, speaking of getting horsed around, we've got this whole EV push, and if we've got time tonight, we'll talk about how we're being forced and pushed towards EVs, some of the success stories and some of the downfalls and the pitfalls of being an EV owner. Now, we have an F-150 Lightning. We've got, we can tell you that's insider information from both being a dealer and from being an electric vehicle owner. Of course, we have the Ford Bronco as well. We have a Porsche 911, sorry. Don't want to offend any Porsche snobs out there. You can get banned from being a vehicle journalist for not saying things properly, like Hyundai. Now, we're also going to be talking about how Toyota ditches EV. So Toyota had ditched EVs. They had an EV avoidance, a real hard on for EV avoidance, and now they're on the EV bandwagon. Let's talk about how they're doing that, why they're doing that, and what we can expect for the future of EVs. So we've got a nice little EV segment, a lot of negative, a lot of positive. So stay tuned. And we'll talk about how US EV sales, have they decreased drastically or have they increased drastically? Looking at dealer lots, you'd think EV sales have drastically decreased. Looking at wait lists, that for some brands we're at 5 years wait list, like Kia, Hyundai, Toyota RAV4 plug-in. The Toyota RAV4 Prime was at a 5-year wait list. Now it's a 3-year wait list. So you think, what, is demand down? Have sales decreased by 50%? We'll talk all about that this evening. Now that was a long intro. So finally, what should I do?
I should just start the episode 1.
I should probably put the pedal to the metal and wish everyone Prost. I'm either on the bandwagon or off the bandwagon. I'm back to drinking, but only on the weekend. So now that we get a Sunday night live together, I can have a drink with the folks out there who drink. And if you don't, well, I had quit for many months and I completely understand. There's huge health benefits, energy levels, less brain fog, a heck of a lot less depression. Just generally feel a whole lot better when you don't drink. But I'm hoping one drink on a Saturday night and one drink on a Sunday night won't kill me. Tonight we've got some pink salt, lemon, a lot of lemon, and tequila. So a good recipe for killing parasites. So Prost, or cheers if you prefer to be cheered. Now let's get the show on the road. UAW strike, impact on prices, production, and dealer inventory. So yes, the UAW strike does have a direct impact on inventory, of course. If they're not building any and we're still selling some, inventory goes down. And when inventory gets too low, prices go way up. We saw that in the last 3 years. But you'll get advice in this show. Subscribe to the channel, because we're going to tell you how you shouldn't accept paying and why you shouldn't accept overpaying any vehicle. Most vehicles should, and a lot of them do have rebates right now, but a lot of dealers won't talk about those rebates. They might have a $5,000 rebate and they give you $2,000 more for your trade and say, hey, we're giving you the best price on your trade in town. Or maybe even $3,000 and say something like, well, that's the price you truly wanted, and that's retail price. That's the price we're going to resell the vehicle for. We'll ask for more than what we're paying you. We'll sell it for $3 more, so you're getting a heck of a deal, a steal of a deal. So why wouldn't you buy the vehicle? And then when you're out of objections, naturally, they get you to say yes a whole lot of times. Sales technique. Get the person, psychological technique in anything. Get someone in a pattern of saying yes, and then ask the big question. That's the hard one to say yes to. Well, they're in a pattern of saying yes. They'll say yes again.
So it's like when you've been arrested by a police officer, you just say, I won't talk. I won't talk at all.
You're better not to talk. And maybe when you're negotiating a car deal, maybe you shouldn't talk very much and be willing to walk away from the deal, because sometimes getting a suspiciously high amount for your trade is a tall tale sign of actually getting ripped off. Often I see it on a regular basis, people getting $2,000, $3,000 more for your trade, but at a manufacturer that has a $5,000 rebate, and they never get to see any of that rebate. So the dealer keeps the difference. So I'm here to help out. Let's talk about the UAW strike and what this is going to do for prices, production, and dealer inventory. We've got the United Auto Workers, also known as the UAW for short. And for the rest of this episode, to save my voice, Marie just got her voice back today, basically. So the strike against Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, so UAW, they're striking. It's affecting those three brands, those three manufacturers, but mostly, and not at all of their US factories. So if your vehicle is getting built at, in Mexico, which Stellantis and GM, I think unfortunately, build a lot of trucks down there. And I'm not saying in Mexican manufacturing, they have built good vehicles before. The Fusion is fantastic. It's well put together. The Mach-E, I think, is better. It's better assembled than most Teslas. It's better painted than most Teslas. Most Teslas have trouble keeping the paint on them, so get them wrapped. It's not a bad company to get. Just know everyone has their weaknesses and their strengths. You buy a Tesla, get it wrapped. That paint likes to come off after 2 winters, start to come off after 2 winters. But I think it's unfortunate for our economies. Now, it could be a lot worse, production going to outside of Canada and the US, because the United States, Canada, and the US really benefit each other quite a bit. And those 3 countries working together is probably going to be the secret sauce to success, to fighting against production going to China and India. And it also helps us be economically very powerful on the world scale. There's value to working together, but your production of, let's say, a Ford Maverick or a Mach-E is far less affected because those plants aren't going to shut down because they're not unionized. However, less parts can be going to them and production gets slowed down. And Ford has actually had to lay off and will probably be laying off more people this week because of plant closures. Now, this past Friday, to give you a little rundown of how the strike's been going, generally when things have closed, it's been on a Friday. Now, this Friday, nothing got closed for Stellantis,
Good.
GMC, or Ford. But CEO President, Mr. Fain, Sean Fain, did mention that things could get closed down any day of the week, like the Kentucky truck plant that got closed down on a Wednesday.
But that's a good news for now. It's calm. And do you know if they choose the plant specifically that will affect more the fabricant that they close?
Absolutely.
Or it's just like that?
Absolutely. That's a
Yeah.
fantastic question. UAW, I think, in order to have more impact later on, smart. They realize that if you close all the factories down right off the beginning, their $827 million pot, their savings, they take every week, they take money off workers' pay for times like this. They have roughly $827 million, you could say, in the striking bank, which means at $500 per week per employee, if they strike all 150,000 employees at once, they only have 11 weeks. And I think they probably realized that the automakers could last longer than 11 weeks because Stellantis, GM, and Ford have basically right around 2 months worth of inventory on their lots. So at first they only closed basically, you could say, a plant, one factory for each. Ford, it was the Ford Bronco factory. So Ford Bronco production has been at 0 for basically a month. So Ford Bronco, we're talking about 2024 Ford Bronco. We're lucky we got our 2023 at MSRP. Our 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor that we ordered is on standby. Nothing is getting built. However, let's talk about this a little more. So right now, Ford has 3 plants down, my apologies. The parts suppliers for GM and Stellantis, many of the parts suppliers distribution network is down. So that affects you if you've got a recall or you need a repair on your vehicle. It might take quite a while to get your part for your vehicle.
So it didn't affect only the new cars, it's the used car too.
That's an excellent point, and I appreciate you pointing that out because I don't think about making things clear.
It will hurt more.
Yeah.
It's logical that
It'll
they do that.
hurt more, and they can strike. They can last for a lot longer because they didn't strike everyone at once. That would have been only 11 weeks. How they've set it up thus far, if they continue at this pace, they could be off for, 6 to 8 months.
That's a lot.
And Ford and GM and Stellantis, sometimes they're being forced to lay off workers because they need to slow down production. And we'll get to that news in just a moment. Right now, the sticky points, we could say, there's a couple of key issues. And because of those key issues, it's about, future EV production and worker job guarantees, because they're, the workers, the UAW is worried that as we move towards EV, everything could get automated and they just get completely replaced. Not even jobs going to China. We're now worried about people being replaced altogether. And they want to get back the pension plans that they had back in 2007 that they willingly gave up in 2008 to help save the big 3. So as a result, the UAW decided to expand its strike recently against the Blue Oval, and that was the Kentucky truck plant. That was the week before last. Last week, nothing happened on the Friday, and that's where they build the Ford Super Duty, the Ford Expedition, and Lincoln Navigator. Now, those are all very high. Those are the highest profit margin models at Ford. So to answer your question really properly, are they closing certain factories down to have more or less of an effect? Yes, less of an effect on how much it costs them to be on strike so that they can be on strike longer, and they hit Ford in between the legs. I'm talking about the pocketbook. No, I'm talking about the pocketbook. Men leave their wallets in their front pocket, and that's where the UAW has kicked Ford, right between the legs in the wallet region. So they're also building the Lincoln Navigator. Heck, a Lincoln Navigator now is basically 123,000 Canadian dollars. It's clearly a high profit vehicle. You know, it's not $80,000 more than a Ford Escape because it uses 30% more metal. It's 3 times the price. So obviously, we don't need to bust out the calculator here. We know they've kicked them in their high profit margin areas. A very sensitive area, you know, because for a company and a CEO, it's all about dollars. However, in the auto market, it would appear that the biggest losers become the biggest winners. Look at Lucid. Lucid is currently the biggest loser on the market. They lose, according to their shared public info, they lose $338,000 every unit that Lucid sells and delivers. So they're losing billions and billions of dollars every year. They're very far away from making a dollar. A Lucid vehicle, let's say it's about $130,000. But they're losing $338,000 on that vehicle. So the CEO got a $137 million raise. So we think that, you know, Jim and Mary got paid way too much as a yearly bonus. Well, Jim Farley's $20-some million, and Mary from GM, the CEO of GM, she got paid, what was it, in the 30-some, about $38 million as a bonus. A lot of people are reacting negatively to that, but that's nothing compared to $137 million Lucid CEO bonus.
That's big
for
bonus.
Being the biggest loser on the market. So yes, the UAW is making sure that they, thus far, have the biggest impact possible with the least amount of people having to strike. So what's going on? Kumar Galhotra, I hope I pronounced that correctly. I mean all respect towards him, has basically said that they've reached the limit for what Ford can offer. So Kumar Galhotra is a big shot at Ford. He's the head of one of the units because Ford's now divided into 3 units, the EV section or division. You've got the classic, gasoline section division, and you've got the fleet division. So he's saying that they've reached a maximum point for what they can offer. After that, they're not going to be able to survive. So it looks like we're now at, we could say I wouldn't even call this the midpoint of the strike because we're still far off from what the UAW wants. And you've got Ford saying, we've hit a wall. We've sent, 7 or 8 different offers, each one better than the last, and this is as far as we can go. Now, I'm going to get a great slide to show the impact of this. You got to keep me on track and make sure I actually pull through these slides, Marie. Otherwise, all that work I get for collecting this data goes out the window. So let's see here. We've got a good slide showing what's going on for the overall effects of the strike. And if I can actually find it, because I've got really not the greatest eyesight here, try to get this up. So we've got how it's affected each, how many workers. So we'll flip through that.
Just the bullets here.
Yeah, it's a little picture of little factories in the background. Let's get to the next section. We'll get back to that, but we've got the UAW saying that the Ford transmission plant may have to start laying off people because, you know, those Super Duties, it's a 10-speed, 10R80 transmission, just like you have it for the F-150, you have it for the Expedition, you have it for the Ford Ranger, basically all Ford's big vehicles. And that transmission, well, if you've closed down the Expedition and Super Duty and Navigator factory, well, you're needing a lot less transmissions. So that means layoffs are going to occur at the transmission factory. So the two main sticking points right now, which are causing things to really be at a standstill and not move forward, are increased retirement security. So they want more retirement security and the inclusion of future joint venture EV battery plants. And they want to guarantee and ensure they've got jobs. Now, GM has already reportedly agreed to the latter term, but thus far, Ford has shunned making such a move, instead preferring to allow employees at those plants to decide for themselves if they want to be represented by the union. Now, so we're talking about the EV plants. Ford saying, let's let workers at the EV plants decide if they want to be unionized, because these are new plants, and the union is saying, well, no, we want those to be, you know, guaranteed union jobs right off the bat. We want to know, basically, they probably want to figure out how many jobs and protect those jobs and make sure they're union jobs. So according to the automaker, for Ford, a grand total of 13 of its plants are interconnected to the Kentucky plant. The Rawsonville Components Plant, Dearborn Diversified Manufacturing Plant, the Cleveland Engine Plant, the Sharonville Transmission Plant, the Chicago Stamping Plant, Buffalo Stamping Plant. So these are all plants that are being affected by the Kentucky plant being closed down. We also have the Sterling Axle Plant, the Chihuahua Engine Plant, Okay, can't get that one right. Chihuahua. So if someone knows how to say that one correctly, it kind of looks like
Chihuahua.
Chihuahua.
Like a dog.
It cannot possibly be
It's written the
Chihuahua
same.
plant. Gosh, I want to work there. That sounds like a fun
But
place.
a Chihuahua dog, I guess it's coming from Mexico, so
A
it's
region.
the city, so
Yeah,
they name it after, and the plant too.
Yeah. Well, I like our version more. We got the Windsor Engine Plant, the MAP Integrated Stamping Plant, and the Dearborn Stamping Plant. And you also have the Louisville Assembly Plant and Ohio Assembly Plants. So those are big plants right there, which could signal the production of vehicles at those later two facilities being affected. So if you've got a vehicle, and we're talking about trucks, so trucks could very much be affected. Now, that the trucks exactly that could be affected, the Ford Escape, the Lincoln Corsair, the E-Series, Super Duty, and medium duty trucks could also be affected soon. And remember, the F-150 runs on the 10R80 transmission. So if they actually close down the transmission plant, then we really have Ford having to deal with a ton of layoffs because there just wouldn't be a capacity. Then we'd really be affected for production of so many vehicles at Ford, because so many vehicles use the 10-speed transmission. Now, Ford recently had to lay off 600 workers at the Michigan Assembly Plant. The expanded strike at the Chicago Assembly Plant has thus far resulted in 243 layoffs at the Chicago Stamping Plant and 184 at the Lima Engine Plant in Ohio, as well as 391 at the Livonia Transmission Plant and 133 at the Sterling Axle Plant and 372 at the Cleveland Engine Plant. So these are layoffs. This isn't affecting the UAW's budget for the strike. It's not digging into their $827 million. Ridgeview, howdy ho, the WB, thank you so much for joining. 4 high, 4 low. Love seeing the regulars pass by in the chat. Now, if you're watching the show, please, if you're watching it live, drop a live comment. Say hi to our community members. Throw in some of your knowledge. If you don't like Ford or GM or Stellantis, say why. If you love them, say why. Talk about your favorite models and how your current ownership and previous ownership experience has has been going. We want your comments. If you're not watching live, please drop them in the comments box. And if you are a regular live watcher, when these videos get cut up into mini episodes, please help the channel out. Just go and open them up. Let them run in the background if you don't mind, if you have endless amounts of internet, and drop a little comment, say hi to the group, because that's how we're going to get this information out to more people. And when we get to talking about price protection, that's where you'll know why I want so many people, so many more people to be watching our videos. So you've got 1,920 layoffs thus far just at Ford. GM's having to dig into some major layoffs as well. So you've got Ford and its counterparts are definitely feeling the effects of this strike, even though it's not costing much to the UAW, and it's impacting about 30% of the automotive suppliers as well. Remember, 2 weeks ago, GM and Stellantis got hit right in their auto parts suppliers' back. So it's that's not going to kick them forward. That's going to hold them back. It's going to hold back owners of these vehicles. It's going to make ownership unpleasant and difficult for some people.
And we hope that not that much people will have that trouble with parts, waiting for parts to go to work. And
so frustrating. When we need our vehicles. We need them. They're a survival tool for modern
it's worse than
living.
ever. Because if you only wait for your new car, but you still have one, that's not that bad. It's the people who really need it right now, and with the parts we have the same thing. We need it right now. Yeah,
being people that will work in and around cities, taking their vehicle in a city. Certain cities have decent transportation, but for us, if we didn't have our vehicle, we almost couldn't get to work. In my parents' area, without a vehicle, you cannot get to work whatsoever.
Not get to grocery store. You cannot do.
You need a vehicle. A vehicle. Having your vehicle taken away is like being a farmer and having your rifle and shotgun taken away. It's just not feasible.
Special comparison.
Hint, hint, wink, wink. Governments. Some people need things to survive, and we don't all want to, rely and have faith that the government will take care of us like we're children. And you know what? Taking care of individuals like their children using tax dollars is extremely expensive. I'm not going to get into rant, because then I'll get talking about whether it's justifiable and even ethical for tax dollars, our money, to go outside of the country, because it's our money. It should only ever benefit us. But I'll move on. Episode 2. Ford transmission lawsuit. So yes, Ford is having a class action lawsuit against them, and it's for the 10R80 10-speed transmission. Now let's remember a few things, folks. When you're accused of something, whether you're a company or you're an individual, being accused of something doesn't mean you did it. I'm tired of how the media, someone gets accused, not even from a legal perspective. They're not even brought into court, but someone basically gossips about someone else, saying, "Oh, they mistreated me. They treated me horribly." Well, first of all, your emotions are your own darn problem. You're responsible for your own emotions, and you're not guilty of anything until you're proven so. So people just saying, "Oh, I don't want to go through the criminal system, but so-and-so," and then say something really nasty against someone, maybe because they're getting paid by media sources because you want to take that person down, isn't something we should ever listen to. It's complete crap. Now, this transmission problem is real. It's very real. I know it. I felt it. I've had one of our Mustangs had it. I've driven rarely, but I have driven an F-150 with it, and I have clients that have felt it in their Super Duty, and I have one client, and I have another client, two other clients, customers who felt it in their F-150. However, the lawsuit isn't trying to get money from Ford because they felt the issue. Now the issue, what happens? Well, when the transmission's cold, in a small percentage of the vehicles, when the transmission is cold and you're, driving away from your driveway, it can hesitate, or it can kind of jolt a little, jerk a little, or seem like it's a little uncertain what gear to go into. And in some instances, it can even pull the vehicle forward a little. Now, that was the case with our 2018 Mustang. And I loved our blue 2018 Mustang, but I was okay with selling it.
Is it the same problem like when you feel it kick a little?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like that. Okay.
Precisely. So I think you've had that feeling with the Mustang from the sounds of it.
Yeah, sometimes with the car, said, "Oh, I feel it kick between the 2 and the 3."
Just kind of was like riding a horse. You know, I had an Arabian horse, and they're hot-blooded, and to give a little kick, and you're like, oh, okay, let's cool off a little here, getting a little excited, horsey.
That's because you have a pony on the Mustang.
Because you got a pony on the Mustang. Now our 10-speed Bronco transmission hasn't had any of those issues. I've been loving it. But here's the real deal. The lawsuit is about saying, oh, well, those issues could maybe one day lead, well, no, sorry. They're claiming it will lead to a fire and a complete failure of the transmission. So they're saying, give us money. Here's the thing. I haven't heard of any issues with the transmissions catching fire, and the lawsuit even claims that, the transmission could cause a fire that could then cause costly damages to things parked around that vehicle. However, these things haven't happened. What has happened is that for some customers that are having this issue, and then it can be reproduced once it's brought in to be checked by mechanics at service, they can completely flash, completely erase the transmission's brain and reprogram it. A little education. And this re-education has cost Ford money. Now, GM hasn't done anything in regards to the re-education for their 8-speed or 10-speed transmissions, but Ford has invested in money into that. And guess what? When you do something like that, the media likes to get on. Every time Ford does a recall, it's coming. I'm warning everyone, it's coming. You're going to hear about how Ford is the most unreliable brand because they have the most recalls. That's one of the major points where I don't agree with Car Edge. They're saying, don't buy a Ford. Look how awful they are because of all these recalls.
Better to fix it than doing nothing.
Exactly. Has Tesla done a recall for its paint that falls off? No, they don't.
It will cost a lot if they do a recall on the paint. If they need to repaint all the cars, yeah. A lot of money.
And maybe that's the right solution. Or what about the Teslas that were mini Teslas for certain years, certain models are assembled where the lines, between sheet metal, they don't line up very well. They're either oddly spaced or touching, that the assemblage of the vehicle isn't as good overall as a Mach-E, which is made in Mexico. Are they doing a recall for that? No. So they won't get bad publicity by lazy media journalists who went to university. I went to university with people like this. They're the type of people that their exam is the next day, or they've got, a 10-page essay due the next day, and they started at night at 10 o'clock with a drink in their hand, and they finish it at 7 a.m. in the morning, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and then they run to their class and they hand it in. They started it the night before. I would say in the university world, as a student and as an employee for a very long time, I know these people exist. I've seen them. This is the type of lazy journalism with clickbait titles like Ford, the most unreliable brand, and then they base that just on the fact that they did more recalls than anyone else, because last year the recalls at Ford affected about 8 million people, and there was 70-some recalls. You know what? This year, I won't be surprised if they make it to a nice even 100 recalls. I won't be surprised if it affects 8 to 10 million people. But that means your vehicle is actually getting fixed because Ford says, hey, sometimes it's even something that could be a problem way down the road at 200,000 miles. And Ford will say, you know what? Let's do a recall. This part should last more than 150 or 200,000 miles. So let's offer everyone a new part. Sometimes the recall says, say you've got that part, you get a new piece. Sometimes it's like a service bulletin that says, well, if you have X, Y, and Z as symptoms, you get a new part. So I think this is information that I felt I needed to share. I don't see how they're going to win this lawsuit because unless transmissions actually start catching fire and burning things around them, as they say, could happen way down the road, it seems like a lot of hot air. But is there, is the 10R80 10-speed transmission ideal? No. If it's not, and it's not ideal for a small percentage. And those small percentage of people, if they're really having the issue be consistent, the hesitating and the jerking, they're going to get reprogrammed. They're not the people themselves. We're not talking. This is Ford doesn't run the CIA division of the Men in Black. What they do run is their own parts that they actually take care of because they want a good customer service. There's a lot of customer service satisfaction bulletins that go through, meaning like if the client seems unsatisfied because of the transmission jerking, here's their new programming. So I thought I'd share that all with y'all. And that ends that. I think we're ready for episode 3. Now stick with us because we're going to be talking about some really great customer service, people who've bought vehicles in areas like Florida and California that I thought that there's no way of getting a good deal out in those states. But we'll talk about how someone got a good deal. If you're not watching this as a live, you'll be able to, click over to the right or to the left to catch another one of these videos. Please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and the bell notification to help feed and dress those poodles and help us put the pedal to the metal, because while the channel doesn't make very much money, it does almost pay for the Bronco payments every month. So now we're getting to episode 3. So if you want to mark that time, Marie, episode 3, Toyota and Honda are screwed. And not so much the manufacturers, but the people who buy them. Let's talk about that. That was kind of the headline this week to one of my favorite shows on YouTube, Car Edge. Now let's try to get over here and open up the right slide for this. We'll have a bit of news in other episodes or later on in this live about the Ford Bronco sales actually surpassing the Toyota 4Runner. So let's head over here. We'll be talking about different brands and the percentages on the market, whether going up or down, and how to get a good deal. So let's check this out here. Okay, so I think this is a pretty good slide to start with because it helps explain things. Toyota and Honda sell a lot of vehicles, and their prices are going up at these companies. But that's where there's a bit of an issue, a lot of an issue. Prices are going up. Dealers are abusing the rarity because Honda CR-Vs and just Hondas in general, as well as most Toyota models, the dealers are at low inventory, and there's some dealer scamming, you could say, going on in regards to that, and it's hurting people who actually want to buy these vehicles. And prices have been increasing because Toyota and Honda actually have pricing power. So let's cover that right here. So I love Car Edge. They bring us the best data on the market. And I agree with them on this one. Toyota and Honda buyers are screwed. And Toyota and Honda dealer inventory is at an almost all-time low. It's very, very low. They haven't brought up, I would say, production, but here's the weird thing. They have. Toyota, for example, has record production. I mean, they're producing more vehicles now than they have in the last 10, 20 years. But their dealer lots look like we're in the middle of the pandemic, like Jeep, Stellantis all together, all the brands, Jeep, Ram, GMC, Nissan, Subaru, BMW, Audi, Mercedes. In the pandemic, lots were very low, and some dealers use this as an excuse to add on, 10, 15, 20, even some crazy cases of $100,000 of added markup. Now, I hope none of you here paid those wild markup prices because I warned everyone against it. Because now if you want to trade in that vehicle or anytime in the future, you're going to be at a huge loss. Unless, and I always had that unless, let's say I've always said, if you pay an extra $2,000, $3,000 or even $5,000 more for something like a Maverick, which because of its popularity continues to be in high demand and not available. Well, if you pay $3,000 overpriced for a Maverick, keep it a year and then sell it for $5,000 more, by then after a year, maybe you won't sell it for $5,000 more than you paid for, but let's say you sell it for the original MSRP. Well, then driving it for a year will have only cost you $3,000, less than $300 a month. And nowadays you can't own and drive a vehicle for $300 a month. So it's weird. Some vehicles, rare ones like the Ford Maverick, you can actually buy, and if you buy with a slight over MSRP, you could end up driving that vehicle. Well, even now, if you were to sell let's say you still had your Maverick, you would have had it now for 6 months, 7, 8 months, and you'd probably have 10, 12,000 kilometers on it, and you could still sell it for $2,000, $3,000 over MSRP.
That's so good.
Meaning you would have paid $150 a month or $200 a month to own that vehicle.
That's nothing.
That's dirt cheap. That's not what's going on with Toyota and Honda right now. The dealers are asking for more. A lot of their dealers are asking for you to pay forced pay, anti-theft systems that cost a fortune, paint protection systems.
It's always, it costs less when you do it somewhere else than at the dealership. So yeah, it's not fun to have to pay for it when you don't.
It's not fun to be forced because they say, well, it's already on it. Your ordered vehicle can come in and they can throw it on and say, well, no, that's all vehicles need the paint protection. All vehicles need nitrogen in the tires. Sorry, this is for your overall long-term safety and satisfaction. You're paying an extra $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for this vehicle. Too bad, so sad. If you don't want it, someone else will take it. And they have next to no vehicles on the lots. So you're in between a rock and a hard place. Now, CarEdge, this is where I don't agree with CarEdge. CarEdge said you should go ahead and buy another brand because part of their, not a rant, but excellent coverage with data of what's going on at Toyota and Honda is that Toyota and Honda prices have gone up, especially at Toyota. They talked about a 25% price increase at Toyota in the last, since 2019. But I was on their live, or maybe it was after their live, I dropped in some comments, I did the math. Inflation since 2019 has basically been 20%. And with Toyota increasing their prices by 25, or let's say even 27%, that means really above just matching inflation, they've only really increased their price by 5 to 7%. So is it really enough reason to not buy a Toyota? I'd like the people in the comment section, please drop a comment. Knowing that Toyotas have increased, depending on the model, between 5 and 7% more than they normally would, because they would normally just follow inflation. But there has been a 5 to 7% true price increase on a Toyota. Is Toyota reliability worth, should we allow them a 5? Let's say you can get a dealer that sells you the vehicle at MSRP. Would you take that deal? Do you think it's worth it knowing that they've actually increased the price 5 to 7% above inflation? So that's the true price increase. I'd say Toyota reliability, yes. Honda, no. Honda, the CR-V is their most popular model. I'm going to explain why I don't accept in my mind, and I wouldn't buy a Honda, especially not a CR-V. So let's check this out. I got to get my list here that shows all vehicles, most sold vehicles. So it's probably all the way at the other end, knowing my fair fortune here. Okay, I think I've got them here. So, Honda Civic and the Honda CR-V. Honda CR-V, 2, 3, 4, fifth most sold vehicle. Very popular back in 2021. It's lost a bit of popularity. The Honda Civic is no longer on the top 10 list for most sold vehicles now. So looking back to 2021, even if we go back to 2014, Ford Fusion was there. Makes you wonder why Ford got rid of the Ford Fusion. But you've got the Honda Civic still in the top 10 list back in 2014. Back then, the Honda Accord was there, and the Honda CRV. The Honda CRV has been a top 10 for, over 10 years now. But here's the thing. The Honda CRV used to be one of the most reliable vehicles you could buy. And I'd say a low mileage 2014 or 2015 CRV might be a better buy than a slightly used 2021 CRV. And that's because for the last few years, watch your models, do your research. The Honda CRV is on a CVT transmission. It has tanked the reliability of the Honda CRV. So not worth a premium. Does the Honda CRV, you can't justify increasing your price by 5 to 7% more than inflation when you've got a vehicle with a serious problem. Change your transmission, spend the extra money to have a real transmission. These CVT belt-driven transmissions are unreliable. Pay Ford or Toyota for their eCVT transmission that they've got on the Ford Maverick and that they've got on their hybrids over at Toyota. The eCVT is a big old gear with big old metal teeth and a bunch of little gears to help that big gear function. That's a great, unbelievably reliable setup. But that's not the case for the Honda CRV, which is currently in 6th position for most sold vehicles. Has pretty much always been the rival for the RAV4, but I think it's time that the Escape knocks the CRV off this list because it's not what it used to be. And it's not because it's long in the tooth. It's not because it's old technology. It's because they tried something new called being cheap SOBs. I'm disappointed I'm disappointed in Honda. I've loved Honda. I think it's been an amazing Japanese brand. I'll still buy a Honda lawnmower. I'll still buy a lot of Honda products. But the Honda CRV being their main leader over there, being on a CVT, you're causing everybody some heartache.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
and it's one of the most stolen car in our area. I don't know about you, but here in Quebec, it's something. When you have a CRV, maybe next morning you wake up and it won't be in your lot.
Thank you for that insider information, because Marie is an insider as well. Marie is...
I would be scared to have a car like that in the lot.
Marie's a big deal in insurances. Outsider Reviews, thank you so much for being on the show this evening. Love the information that you share. Now, everyone, please, after this show, watch another one of our episodes, but then head over to Outsider Reviews show on... He did a great review on the Lincoln Corsair PHEV model. I think he found the seat a little less comfortable than we have found our Lincoln. Well, we've had Lincoln MKCs. My parents had two. We've each owned one. So I've owned one of my over 70 vehicles that I have owned and registered under my name. And you've had an MKC as well. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I really like the MKC seats, but I'm built, as I'm built. And how have you found the MKC seat?
It was comfortable, yeah, but it was before we had a Bronco. The Bronco is it's a lot better. Nothing comparable to other cars that we have before.
Now, Toyota, we see right here, Toyota RAV4 in 3rd place. This is why I'd accept a price increase. I can handle Toyota's price increase. I want to know what your comments are, but I can handle Toyota's price increase because of the top 10 most popular cars. These are of all vehicles, but of the top 10 most popular, most sold cars, which includes SUVs, Toyota has 4 on the list, and Honda has 1, if I recall correctly. So 5 of the 10 most popular or most sold vehicles on the market go to Toyota and Honda. And guess what? Toyota is still very reliable, not perfect, but still very reliable. I wouldn't buy a used Tundra because they take way too much gas. But I do like the Tacoma, despite it being the older model being underpowered. Thankfully, the new model, if you get the hybrid 4-cylinder, it's got a ton of torque, and I expect that to be a fantastic drive. Now, most dealer lots are empty, and this is the disgusting part in all this. Toyota and Honda have the lowest days supply on market. And this is where Toyota and Honda are screwing their owners because they're very loyal customers and they're going to buy more Toyotas and Hondas. But I don't think Honda buyers should buy another. If you have a CRV and you're like, oh, my 15 Honda CRV has 300,000 miles on it. It's an amazing machine. You're not going to likely get that trouble-free out of your new Honda CRV. You're going to change the transmission likely before getting to 300,000 miles. It doesn't justify the price. But what's disgusting is Toyota and Honda are deliberately having the lowest days supply in the market because their production is higher than ever. So that's what's frustrating. Toyota and Honda are making more vehicles than they ever have, or at least more than they have in the last 20 years. And guess what? Their dealer lots are empty. Why? Because they make more profit in other markets, so they're not supplying the North American market. Instead, they're just increasing the price. And they're deliberately, well, I don't want to get sued, so I'm going to say I can presume, in my opinion, I think maybe, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Is the fact that their production is higher than the last 10, 20 years, almost ever, I think ever, but that their lots here are very low. Do you think this could maybe be deliberate to help them increase the price and have people accept this price increase? Now, I'm not going to say it's a 25, 27% price increase when inflation has been almost at 20%. I'm going to say the real deal. The real deal is it's 5 to 7%. It's not as bad as Car Edge made it out to be in the recent episode. But it doesn't justify when the reliability has gone down at Honda. I'd even argue that maybe Toyota overall reliability has gone down just a little bit, but is still very high and fantastic. I would take that Toyota price increase.
Mm-hmm. And like Outsider Reviews just said, he would recommend the Mazda over Honda if you want to go Japanese, because
I was going to say that.
They have less price increases.
And I really like Mazda. We're talking about Mazda just today. You can get a Mazda 3 all-wheel drive, really good looking from the outside.
For the size of the car, having an all-wheel drive.
And the Mazda 3, we both like the front end. We like the lights. We like the grille. We like the slanted down hood. We like the Mazda 3. And actually, we like a lot of Mazda models. And it's not just about price. It's the fact that Mazdas are reliable, they're fun to drive, and their interiors are fantastic.
Yeah, it's sad we don't hear that much about Mazda. They are
You're hearing about it
in
here.
The shadow, I guess.
Yes, and this is what bothers me. Car Edge basically said you should go out. They're like, well, maybe you should go out and buy a Subaru or a Nissan. No, huge no. And this is why. Nissan loves using the CVT transmission. They have screwed their owners, their fan base, worse than Toyota and Honda, because they put in a much less reliable transmission in almost everything they sell. It's hot, steaming garbage or hot, steaming pile of horse crap.
That was
which I used to when I used to work on a beef farm that had horses and had cows, and I've pitched forked my fair share of steaming poop, and I can tell you, I know when something's steaming poop. I can recognize it by smell, I can recognize it by look, and I know crap when I see it. And I've owned two wonderful Nissans. I had a Nissan 300ZX. And I still like Nissan trucks, but I had a Nissan 300ZX twin turbo, and I also had a 240SX. And both those vehicles were great. Fantastic. Yeah. The Nissan 300ZX twin turbo was one of the best vehicles I've owned. It's in my top 10 overall all-time favorite vehicles. but they didn't have CVT transmissions. They tried it out in the Nissan Rogue. It broke a lot in a high percentile in the Nissan Rogue, and they're like, oh, but it's still cheap, so let's throw it in everything. And guess what? It's breaking outside of warranty, so it's not our problem. So basically, they've poo-pooed on their customers. And they've not only, knowing that the Nissan Rogue transmission in early years was, I'd say, a disastrous failure, it shows a complete lack of respect and thought for their client base to then continue to expand on that and throw it into more and more vehicles.
And that was sad because they had, back in that time, a great looking model, but many people were afraid to touch it because of the transmission.
Now, since 2019, the average transaction price at Toyota has gone up roughly $2,000 at $12,000. And that's where basically CarEdge was saying, hey, Toyota and Honda, they're screwing their customers. The prices have gone up so much, but let's not forget about inflation. And if you don't want to buy one of those vehicles, I'd say get a Mazda. Subaru, Nissan, I've told you what my issue is with Nissan. Now, Subaru, my issue is they're generally pretty great. They've got a really, their fan base is very, very, very reliable. However, my experiences from my entourage and from what I read online as well, the data and whatnot is if a Subaru has a turbo engine in it and you're really kind to it, you're fine. But if you've got a heavy foot and you drive it a little bit like those Subarus we always see winning rally races, it's going to be pretty problematic. Blown turbos, blown engines. If you think of the Subaru WRX, notorious for having easy to blow engine, but I also know people who have babied those vehicles and they've really lasted. It's kind of the opposite of a sports car. A real sports car, you should drive it hard so the engine doesn't blow, because you got to make sure the carbon doesn't build up and you got to use and abuse it. Shift at 6,000 RPM once in a while. Well, the Subaru is kind of the opposite. It's like baby it and it could last you a very long time, but drive it like a true sports car and it's going to have a temper tantrum. Now, that concludes that episode. Please like and subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss the real deal in the automobile news. We don't want anyone getting fooled. We cover the real deal. We're going to be talking about price and how to make sure you get the right price and don't overpay. If you stay tuned to this live, or if you're watching this as a mini episode, you can click here or here at one of our other vehicles, videos, and you'll likely see one of our videos covering price, because we're going to tell you how to actually save thousands of dollars and make sure you don't get screwed by the dealer. So let's cover that right here, right now. So stay tuned. Now, episode 5. Episode 5. Let's have a nice positive break. So we're going to be talking about Bronco buyer experience. Now, we actually have someone from the community. I don't want to call them out because I don't think that's fair, but I'd love it if they say, hey, that's my story, because I do believe that I know they're watching right now. So let's get to the slide here. Someone actually has a very surprising Bronco story. Great sales experience. And then we're going to get to talking about, in the next episode, we're going to be talking about how to save thousands of dollars based on what you need to know about what's going on at dealers right now. But this is actually a great dealer story and a great customer story, because this Bronco owner knew what to say and do. They're well informed. They're watching the show on a regular basis, and they also have a beautiful Bronco, and they take fantastic photos. Love their photos, and I'd love it if they actually mention maybe where you can see their photos over on Facebook or Instagram or X. So 4 high, 4 low. I want to make sure that you said, hey, that's my story, so I can say, it's our buddy 4 high, 4 low, one of our favorite reoccurring viewers on the show. Yeah, I want us always to be safe. Always better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, nice Bronco. I love the back window with the American flag.
I want that. Beautiful hardtop. And this, I love the accessories. I think this is a perfectly built Bronco. You see up here, you've got the hard top. This is the best of both worlds. You know how I've said we are always getting soft tops because we want the ease of throwing back that top. Well, here's a hard top for the best look. And you can't argue with it. Like, that looks better than our soft top.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot better.
And I don't know if it's a bad word, but I found it badass with the rack on the top here.
That is a bad word. But
Yeah,
it's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll get our show will get not suggested and basically canceled by YouTube or almost demonetized because they won't suggest it to anyone because of my rants,
I will
not because
cut
of your
that part
language.
if you want.
No, you don't have to cut it. What I will do, I'm at the end of my drink, so I will now eat a huge piece of ginger and try to present. But that means you need to talk about what you like about this Bronco. But I can tell you, perfectly accessorized because you've got the soft top added to the hard top for an easy flip back.
Yeah, it's a great accessory, I guess, because it's simple like that. You have the great look of the hardtop and the convenience that you can have a rack on it, so you can have more stuff with you. But you have the easiest part of the soft top that you can remove easily. Here in Canada, we love it because we never know when it will rain, so
right.
we just go when we arrive at a stop and we just put it back easy like that in 2 seconds. I don't know in Florida or places like that if they need something quick like that, but here with the rain, that's a must. Like I said, I really love the decals of the flag in the back window and the flag at the same time in the back.
And I'm loving the paint.
It's perfect, yeah, with the paint.
Red looks great
Just
on a
it's so great.
Badlands. This red looks great with the orange stitching on the inside, which I'd much prefer. Instead of our Wild Tracks blue, gray, beige interior, we'd so much prefer the black and orange interior on a Badlands. 4 high, 4 low. You've got good taste, my friend. You've got a beautiful Bronco.
Yeah,
And
he just said in the chat you can flip the soft top with one hand only,
Oh,
so
cool.
it's easier than
Yes.
our soft top.
But our 2023 soft top is, I think you have trouble flipping it back on your own, but
It's
you
more
didn't used to
heavy
have.
than
It's
before.
heavier. Yes, it's thicker. It's the insulation or the sound deadening or probably both are better than they were on our. We had two 2021 Broncos, and we can say the 2023 soft top is better because the little channels for getting less water just being thrown on you when you kind of go open the window at the drive-through. But it's also heavier. So it's a better top, but it's a little harder to manipulate. Now, I do love the Sasquatch wheels, our winter kit. So we've got Nokian tires, Nokian, Hakapalika tires. Fantastic winter tires. Highly recommend them. And we've got them on Sasquatch mags. So we actually have a secondary set of mags because in the summer, of course, you've got the all black Wild Track wheels that we like quite a bit. Now, I really do like the mud flaps. You can tell us. I think those are rock blocks. We're not sponsored, so 4 high, 4 low. You can go ahead and say exactly how you feel about them. But we've been tempted to buy these before. But you know, they're better than Ford's Sasquatch front mud flaps because they're $640 roughly Canadian. But here's a little trick: you can get WeatherTech for about $80 or $90 Canadian for the front. WeatherTech fits. Now the regular mud flaps fit on the Sasquatch. You can get Ford rear mud flaps that say Bronco on them, and they do a great job. But if you get the regular mud flaps that are exploitative, you can, the front mud flaps at Ford, you have to buy this $640 pair. And if you get the regular pair and you try to throw them on your Sasquatch, you just wasted money because they don't fit on. We've made them fit because just the 2 bottom screws for each side fit. But if you go with WeatherTech, it'll fit. You'll get, I believe it was 3 or 4 of the screws in, and it'll only cost $80. I've tested it before. I spent my money to make sure I brought excellent advice to the group, and that's advice that's going to save you about $550. So I think that's good buying advice right there. Let us know what you think about the rock blocks. I think they look really great, but from recollection, I looked at them and I think they're about $350, and they're sold out the 2-3 times I tried to buy them. And I can understand why. They're good looking, but I love the red with this badge. Another great color for Badlands is blue. We had our blue Badlands, blue with the orange badging and the black interior. So sharp.
And I guess you love the thing that he puts At the bottom of the badge, the Bronco
Yeah, I do like
sign,
that.
vintage that you were looking for. Yeah.
Now, we've got the story here, and for some reason, it didn't actually stick with everything else. But basically, he got a fantastic dealership experience, no added markup.
Good to hear that.
And this was from a full Florida dealership. And because I'm not getting the slide to pop up right off, you could give us a little hand and let us know the name of the dealership. I've got it somewhere here in one of these slides, but I'm not going to waste everyone's time with my awful ability to deal with too many of them. But I'll let you know, Marie did tell me I'm only allowed 10 slides in a week so that I actually stay on topic.
You won't search a lot if you have only 10.
But his experience with the salesman was good as well. So polite, qualified salesman, giving him a good service and selling the vehicle at MSRP. And buying a Bronco at MSRP, folks, is a good deal. So the dealership's called Bozard Ford. If you're watching this as a cut up episode, you can still watch the live replay and see people answering and throwing in comments and giving really helpful information. So don't miss out on learning more about automobiles from our community. We've got a really educated and experienced community. Most of our watchers are above the age of 50, so most of them have been dealing with vehicles for,
a long time.
a long time.
Yeah. And you know what? Bozard Ford is at St. Augustine, Florida.
Oh, beautiful.
One of our favorite places in the world.
Yeah, one of our favorite places in the world. One of the oldest. Well, they say it's the oldest city in the U.S. I can believe it. It looks like a mix of Vieux Quebec, so Quebec City, the old section, with some parts looking a little bit more piratey because Spanish. They've got more wood in the homes and the buildings.
The city looks so quiet, and even if there's a lot of the tourism. Is it the right word?
Yeah, tourism.
Okay, thanks.
Terrorism is one thing.
No,
tourism is another thing.
And it feels quiet anyway. It's in the beach style, and yeah, it's I love to be there. It's calming.
Now we've got another great story here. We've got F9FCJ429 saying he just made 54 cash bet on the 2.7 liter EcoBoost with two-door Bronco. He brought the Bronco to haul himself and his camera gear out to the far out places that he heads to in the U.S. Southwest. Choosing gasoline power was a no-brainer. The charging infrastructure isn't reliable or available enough yet, but I can buy gas just about anywhere people live. So he's making some really good points here. For a back and forth to work vehicle, an EV and home charging makes sense. For a road tripper, no sale here. That's summing up really what I think about this whole EV. I think the forced push is a bit of nonsense, but being a company basically being forced into EVs, otherwise you have to pay extra taxes and penalties to the government or to Tesla, and that just helps Tesla lower their prices more, giving you even less of a chance to compete with them. It is just complete nonsense. It's a scam, and I think politicians are making money from this. And if you don't believe that politicians make money, well, look what goes on. Sometimes politicians get caught being bribed with gold bars, having their mortgage paid off, with expensive luxury vehicles. Just recently, that actually happened. All of those things with the same person. So he says, no sale here. If it matters, I'm an electrical engineer. He helps develop the stuff. And I love this. I'm going to have to start using this term in the show. I'm going to borrow your term, my friend, F9FCJ429. He says, I still say different courses need different horses. That's almost like my smiles per gallon is what counts. I like to say smiles per gallon is what counts. So if I've got a crazy big smile, I can handle paying more gas. Now, a Toyota Tundra, lots of gas. Not much of a smile, not very powerful for the weight. The power to rate ratio is a little disappointing. So that has low smiles per gallon. But let's say a Ford Mustang, pretty darn good in fuel economy because they've got variable twin cam, variable. The cams can change their behavior. Variable camshaft timing is variable. So they can be either very performance-oriented cams or more so really economic and fuel efficient cams. Now, miles per gallon on the Ford Mustang GT is, I'd say, the highest on the entire market because it's
Plus
the
the great
best sounding exhaust. Yeah. Thank you, my love. Now,
It's not only the feeling of driving it, it's the sound too that makes us having a good experience with that car.
yeah, it's unbelievably powerful as well. Okay, so I think this is pretty interesting. And I'm going to tie this into episode 5. Episode
Good.
5. Ford isn't the only one losing money on the EV push. Toyota has been avoiding the EV push altogether. You know, previously, Toyota was doing everything to do what we could call EV avoidance. And why is this? Oh, it's because EVs lose a ridiculous amount of money. It's scary how much EVs lose. Right now, going EV, it's like, you know, the expression go woke, go broke. Well, going EV means you're going to get shocked. And you're going to get shocked by horrible losses. Ford claims to lose $32,000 every EV unit sold. So if you're wondering, why doesn't Ford have more Pro F-150 Lightning Pro models? That's what I want. Oh, I'm going to wait for that model. They can't build that model. They're building that model in very, very low numbers so that it can apply, so other models can apply for electric government money, rebates, subventions is the proper term. It is, if Ford started making mostly Pro models, Ford's entire business would need to close down. You know, if they made 1 million Pro models per year, they'd probably sell 1 million Pro models per year, and quickly they would go out of business, just like Lucid is headed for the toilet. Their CEO got a $137 million bonus for being the biggest loser CEO. I mean, he had the biggest losses as a CEO on the market. Not specifically calling him a loser. I actually think he's pretty cool, and I've read some of the things that he's said. I like the product that he's made. He's clearly very, very intelligent. But he's losing $338,000 every Lucid model that is made. EV rival NIO. NIO, not from the Matrix, mind you, all this false reality, this forced world because of a certain agenda that's being pushed, is a little wild. And it is a fake, fabricated reality pushed by politicians being paid to push this through lobbying money. You know, legal bribing. NIO loses $35,000 on every car sold.
That's a lot.
Yep.
Incredible.
And the only other real truck on the market currently being sold in, some numbers, used to be kind of Ford owned. Ford owned a big portion of the company, but Rivian, the Rivian truck, loses money on every single model sold. So right now, EVs are the secret sauce to big losses. Toyota has done everything to avoid it, and that CEO is now gone. The new CEO is jumping head over heels he's jumping on the horse, on the bandwagon. He's jumping on the electric bandwagon because Toyota had ditched EVs or was in a total EV avoidance. Now they're on the bandwagon because they signed a supply agreement with LG Energy Solution that will involve the latter company supplying the automaker with lithium-ion batteries, not lithium iron phosphate. Lithium iron phosphate is what hopefully a factory in Michigan will be making for Ford. But right now that factory is on hold and is one of the unfortunate consequences of the UAW strike. Now please watch our UAW strike video. At the end of this video, you'll be proposed a video either to the right or the left. Click on it. It really helps the channel grow, get out to more eyes, and drop comments. Because without comments and without you clicking on a second video, no one gets to really know what the real deal is going on in the automotive world from an insider, from an EV owner. We have an F-150 Lightning. We absolutely love it. The truck is performance-wise, comfort-wise, it is an all-time winner. It's one of the best vehicles on the market, and I feel it is a complete soulless machine. I'm driving the Terminator. And one day, if it doesn't like me, it may just drive me to the police station or just stop working because someone decides that I don't get to drive somewhere anymore. Well, that's a potential danger of future vehicles, but really more likely we'll all be priced out of future vehicles 10, 15 years down the road, and we'll all be paying for ride sharing or autonomous taxis. This is one of the main reasons I have bought almost 10% of my portfolio is in Tesla, and that's because Tesla is probably going to be the winner. I believe they're going to be the winner when it comes to autonomous vehicles. So I've put a lot of my money into Tesla, not for their vehicles that I find look great and have some problems that Tesla owners will never want to admit to because they have got like a very verbally violent fan base, which they don't realistically accept that everyone has their pros and cons. They like to say that Teslas are perfect, and anyone who doesn't say so is going to be destroyed on the internet. So hopefully there's no Tesla people watching, because I will probably cry from some of the comments. Tesla people are really rough. The fanboys are scary. They're keyboard warriors, and I'm scared. And I am actually scared. I don't want to get into a fight with any of them over the internet. They'll empty all my bank accounts. They're smart people. They're some of the smartest. A portion of their owners are some of the smartest people when it comes to auto owners out there. We've got a lot of engineer. I don't want to call them. Well, we'll call them tech geeks, engineer geeks, very, very intelligent people.
That's surprising, because normally you're not afraid to say what you want, and with these kind of people, you're afraid.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah, well, there you go. It'll be the one time I don't have a rant, and you're so happy.
You say, if I buy a Tesla, you'll be afraid of me?
I know you won't hack and empty my bank account. So, Toyota does have a supply agreement, but unfortunately for what I would call old battery tech. So they're going to have old battery tech being produced in Michigan, and Ford right now, because of the UAW strike, has put on hold their lithium iron phosphate battery plant, meaning we were expecting the Mach-E's now as of, the last quarter or even the third quarter of Q 2023. We expected Q3 2023 to have lithium iron phosphates in the Mach-E, in the Select model. And I really like this technology. Watch for more episodes to know why. However, we're not getting that. And then it was going to go to the Lightning. I'm now starting to think that maybe we're looking more at 2025 to get lithium iron phosphate technology, which means no use of, right now Toyota is going to be using batteries that have all the things I really don't like about, well, not all of them, half of the things I hate about EVs. They're using nickel, cobalt, manganese, and aluminum. The aluminum I don't mind so much. Actually, I don't mind aluminum at all. I think aluminum is fantastic to being used for panels, in batteries. Aluminum is fantastic. But the nickel and cobalt are not pretty substances. High pollution, high problems. So these are going to be, for Toyota, pouch type cells with an annual capacity of 20 gigawatts an hour starting in 2025. Those units will be used in a variety of Toyota EVs. So they're coming out. Toyota is now slated to come out with a lot more EVs or, hybrids. And that's going to be getting built at their Kentucky plant beginning also in 2025. So LG Energy Solution will invest a total of $3 billion in its Michigan facility. So I'm really happy about that, because that means jobs. And I love hearing about job production in the Canada, US, and Mexico. These three countries need to work together to be able to squash and really not just compete, but squash China. When China wants to play dirty, when they want to have a certain agenda and be buddies with Palestine, and, who knows what they're doing in the Middle East to cause the United States, to try to bait the United States into a forefront war, war in Ukraine, a war in the Middle East, and a war with them. And also maybe a war in Africa, because China's really been pumping a lot into China. But, you can look into and read about the BRICS agreement, China and their future partners. It worries me. So Canada, US, and Mexico need to be much stronger. Canada, You need to shape up, smarten up, get a real leader who is not going to send all sorts of money overseas, but instead will actually make it so our submarines don't sink and so that our battleships don't sink. It's the Canadian Navy. Our Navy servicemen deserve so much better, and as Canadians, we deserve to be properly protected. Now, if you remember, when countries, democratic, liberty-loving countries were built, you go back to John Locke and, the forefathers in thought for after the French Revolution for, freedom and democracy. Basically, they said that governments, that ruling classes, the leaders we pick are only there to protect our life, liberty, and basically, life and liberty. So health and our capacity to live freely. So they're in charge of defense from outside threats and a police force. And some would also argue maybe a medical system to also help protect your life. But they're there to protect our life, liberty, and health. Our life, liberty, and wealth, you could say. My apologies. And when you send our money elsewhere, you're not necessarily protecting your wealth, our wealth and our health and our liberty. And you better be able to prove and argue why our money is going to other countries. You better be able to make a convincing argument towards that. You better not call, let's say, the trucker convoy Nazis and then literally invite a Nazi to our parliament and applaud him and call him both a Canadian hero and a Ukrainian hero. Anyone with any knowledge of history knows that, and our prime minister mentioned, it's really pathetic. He mentioned that he said when they're off fighting the Russians in World War II. Well, everyone knows that the only people fighting the Russians in World War II were not German soldiers and Nazis. And actually in Ukraine, the division of soldiers that were in Ukraine were SS. So the nastiest of all nasties, because some German soldiers were just, out to protect their country. Their country had been very poor. They had been destroyed by World War I, which was supposed to be the war to end all wars. Surprisingly, war doesn't actually end violence forever as they thought. Wars actually breed more violence, which was World War II. German people had been really penalized. They're very poor. They're desperate. So some of those German soldiers, let's not all think that all German soldiers were bad and evil, but the SS soldiers were truly pure demonic pieces of crap. And that's the ones that are, and those are the ones that our prime minister applauded and said was a true hero. So either a complete idiot or the agenda he's supporting is previous Nazis. And who knows, maybe Klaus Schwab is a previous Nazi. He was living in Nazi Germany in the 30s. That's the system that possibly brainwashed him for life. Who knows? But that's my rant for the day.
Wow.
Whew.
A quick rant.
A very angry
You're
rant,
good.
though. So let's hope these jobs come. We need to invest in areas to make sure that other countries cannot destabilize us, cannot take away all capacities that we have for protecting ourselves with modern technology. So, we need to be able to produce oil. We need to be able to produce batteries on our own. We need to be able to produce plastic. We need to be able to produce our own arms and weaponry. And I think it's great that we're going to have a battery plant. Let's hope Ford has a battery plant as well. And we're pretty much wrapping up the show. Let's just wrap up my little rant here with something that really truly bothers me. You see, I invest in the stock market, and I invest like the politicians invest. I sell when the politicians sell. So I actually follow Wall Street memes. I also follow politician trade tracker. And you see here Nancy Pelosi, if you follow her trades, you're going to do well because somehow, miraculously, on a roughly $150,000 per year over her career salary as a career politician is now worth, what is it? $237 million. It's over $150 million. So that just makes, I don't know how to do that math, but politicians are allowed to trade stocks. And really oddly though, you've got Mark Wayne Mullen, Republican from Oklahoma. On 9/13, he disclosed a brand new $50,000 purchase of Raytheon Tech, that's RTX, and Raytheon is the company behind Israel's Iron Dome defense system. And the more frustrating part is that he sits on the Armed Forces Committee. So sits on the Armed Forces Committee and somehow thought, September 13th, thought, hey, I should invest $50,000 in the company that supplies weaponry for the Iron Dome over Israel, which I think it's awful what's happened in Israel, obviously. All I can do is be, at first in shock and then pray for the people of the region. But stuff like that is just like, what the heck? What the heck? And you've got other politicians, by the way, that have actually sold their several $million-dollar positions and have only reinvested a tenth of that money in, one company, but they've pulled out 90% of their portfolio for the moment out of the stock market. They just sold, 100%, reinvested 10, and then 90%. Like, what is going on? But oh yeah, that's right. I'm not supposed to worry you. You're pregnant. So next week, what we're going to be talking about in next Sunday's live, catch us at 6 p.m. Next Sunday's live, we're going to be talking about the crazy high prices. So you've got interest rates on new at 9.95%. Thank you, Car Edge, for giving us that plug. So that's the US market, of course, and used at 14.16%. So it is hard to get a good deal, and you can almost get the impression that there's no good deal to be had. And if you actually want to know it, this is going to be a mini episode, but it's also introducing next week's episode. Prices, you watch YouTube, you read media, and you'd think that it's an awful time to buy anything, any used or new vehicle. And here's the thing, it's not a horrible time to buy a new or used vehicle. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, used vehicles, their prices have gone down. Yes, new vehicles, the average, at Toyota, the average price is up 8%. It's up to $42,208, and that's compared to just a year ago. Now, they've actually gone up more, around 25% over since 2019, but inflation has been at about 20%. So that's something to keep in mind. Their prices have gone up a little bit more than inflation. That's because there's demand, and they're also surprisingly with higher production than they've ever had, but somehow Canada and US, their dealers have very few vehicles. So a little suspicious going on there. Comment what you think's going on. Are they deliberately keeping production's higher than it ever has been, but are they deliberately keeping inventory at dealers low so that they can get people to swallow the pill of them increasing prices above inflation? So the prices are going up. Interest rates have gone up a lot. But there are still some really good deals to be had. And here are my tricks, folks. Tips and tricks to save you thousands of dollars. Look at who has less sales, or which isn't always a sure and guaranteed way. Because let's see right here. Right now, the Ford Escape is up 9.56%. Success story. Ford is selling more Ford Escapes than they were a year ago. They're selling more compared to their competitors a year ago. So the Escape is moving up the most sold sales list. You've got Honda CR-V, 58.9% increase. Toyota RAV4, 8.35% increase. Nissan Rogue, 49.19%. Hyundai Tucson, 26.56% increase. That's, Subaru, 58% increase. Why? Because the production was horrible a year ago. But Ford Escape, 9.56% more sales, and that actually does mostly come down to production. But if you want a good deal on a vehicle right now, you could look at the Escape, but I'd look at the Bronco Sport. Here are the models at Ford that I'd look at. The Bronco Sport, you can either get a rebate or a low interest rate, and the low interest rate on a 2023 Bronco Sport is impressive. You can get $5,000 off a Ford Edge. You can get $5,500 off a Ford F-150, and do we have 10% interest on any of these vehicles? 10% interest, or just about, is the average interest rate across all brands. But guess what? The F-150, you're going to spend about 5% interest and get a $5,000 rebate. The Ford Edge, you're going to get this month a $5,000 rebate and half, like 5-6% less interest than the average interest rate. Now the Escape, If you're looking at a plug-in, here's a common theme. If a vehicle is rare, you're going to pay more interest. So the Ford Maverick, you're going to pay about 8% interest. A Ford Bronco, you're going to spend about 8% interest. A Ford Escape plug-in, very rare, you're going to spend about 8% interest. Now, for all the gas saving, I think the Escape plug-in is an amazing machine. If you look over at the RAV4 Prime, the RAV4 Prime from Toyota, in many dealers, in our region, in our entire province, almost every dealer, you're looking at was a 5-year wait, and it's now a 3-year wait. Has demand gone down? No, production has gone up. Does it look like demand is wildly high at Toyota and Honda? Yes, because their lots are empty, but that is just a really weird and highly suspicious situation because they're building more than ever before. But there are dealer lots here where they happen to make less profit than in other markets. That's where their dealer lots seem to have very few vehicles. And generally, as a general rule, if you've got a model and there aren't very many of them available, it's going to be hard getting a good deal on them. Why can you get a good deal on a Ford F-150 right now? Because there's a lot available and Ford is pretty smart. I think Stellantis right now is not being very smart because they've got really high, many days supply available, over 100 days supply available. That means on average, it takes them well over 100 days to sell their vehicle. They're paying 8% interest on those vehicles sitting at the lots. The dealers must be fuming mad at Stellantis, at Dodge and Ram and Jeep right now. You get next to no rebate on a Jeep right now, and that's ridiculous. They've got a ton of them. So they're just not going with what's logic. What's logic is if you have a lot of a model, you drop a discount on it in the form of a rebate or in the form of a better interest rate or a mix of the two. And that's what's going on at Ford right now. So if you want a good deal, look at the models that Ford has available. They've got a lot of F-150s available. Heck, we pretty much have as many, we've got so many vehicles right now. We've got some of the highest inventory we've ever had. That wasn't the case 2 months ago, and I told you it wasn't the case when people were saying it's the case. Now it is the case. So when it comes to the UAW strike, can Ford dealers last a while? Yes, because they've got so much inventory, but it's a great time to get a good price on an F-150, on a Ford Edge, on a Ford Bronco. Vehicle distribution across the country. You can see what states. Interestingly enough, you can pause this and look at it. Pretty interesting what states prefer which vehicle. So yellow is the RAV4. So you can see RAV4 being very popular on the East Coast and also in the northern West Coast.
See a lot of blue and green.
California, yeah, blue and green. So blue and green, Chevrolet Silverado, darker green, Tesla Model Y. So Tesla Model Y, big surprise, very popular in California. That's their main deal. Red is the Toyota, what is that? The Toyota Corolla in red. So Florida seems to, if I'm a little colorblind here, but
yeah, you have trouble with the red. Just show me the
Florida here. So very popular. Hawaii, that's another Toyota brand. The Toyota Tacoma, very popular over in Hawaii. The Ram, you've got the purple, and the Ford F-Series, you've got the blue. So a lot of blue on the map. Ford, way to go. Those are your most popular models by state. And let's see here. Prices have gone up. Look, these are used vehicles, and used vehicle prices have gone up. We're looking at 2018 here, and as the years progress, you're at 2020 here. Inventory started to go down. Manufacturers eventually realized, gosh, we need to increase prices. Inflation's killing our bottom line, and we've got no vehicles on lots left. And now the prices on new vehicles and used vehicles are coming down, so you can get a good deal. You just need to shop it, and you need to know and be able to tell a dealer that says, oh, well, we're going to sell you this vehicle at an MSRP. Well, if it's a dealer that has, 100 F-150s or 200 F-150s for sale, or they're a small dealer and they've got 10 F-150s for sale, but they're a really small dealer, doesn't make sense. They wouldn't be giving you a rebate. So look, 2 ways you can arm yourself. You can tell them, well, you've got a lot of those vehicles and you're paying 8% interest on them. So for me to take them, I'm going to need you to drop the price and then negotiate a price with them. And make sure you have built the vehicle online and you do know what available rebates are for that vehicle, because that's going to protect you. But used prices definitely coming down. You see SUVs prices have come down 6.7% since September 2022. Cars prices down, used prices down 5.2%. Pickup trucks prices up 1.2%. It would seem used trucks, but there's still a down on that. So they're maybe up from a month ago, but that doesn't make sense. I'd say they forgot to put the negative on this chart, because that is definitely down from the peak. Luxury SUVs down 6.7%. Luxury cars down 11.2%. You want a stinking hot great deal? Look for a readily available, high on lot model luxury vehicle. You should be seeing a drop of 11.2% on that. Used hybrids and EVs in general down 20.3%. Wow, a lot of that has to do with Ford's price drops, and a lot of that has to do with Tesla's price drops. Vans down 4.2%. So be armed with this knowledge so you can save all sorts of money, folks. Now, we're going to end the show on that positive note, how to save thousands of dollars, build the vehicle online so you know what the real price is, you know what the manufacturer rebates are, because I'm telling you folks, a lot of dealers will try to keep part of or all of the manufacturer's rebate, and sometimes they've got a $5,000 rebate, or let's say it's Ram. Ram traditionally always had like 15-20% off their truck. So many times I'd see them tell customers, hey, I'll give you $5,000 in rebate, and I'll give you $5,000 more than anyone else for your vehicle because I like you, bud. But what was really going down is they had $17,000 in rebates. They were giving out 10, and guess what? They're pocketing $7,000. They're stealing $7,000 of your money. And is it legal? Yes. Can you cry about it after you've bought? Yes. Will anything get done? Will you ever see that money again? No, you will not. So you need to watch this show. You need to be properly armed, because people, it's a jungle out there. And everyone's trying to screw everyone. We're all like a bunch of horny rabbits or dogs. We're all just trying to screw each other, unfortunately. And there's very few people out there that are going to think of the common good. And I generally try to live my life realizing that I don't like to be screwed, and I like to be respected and spoken to nicely. So I try to respect and speak nicely to everyone with a 3 strikes rule. You disrespect me, or you disrespect me, or you talk inappropriately to me 3 times in a row, well, the 4th time when it happens, I unfortunately will explode. And that's my vice. I explode, but I'm pretty patient. I give everyone 3 strikes. So thank you so much, everyone. I love this car community. No one in this car community has gotten 3 strikes, other than maybe like when I was starting off, you'd have some people who are here just to, say things like call me gay, effeminate immigrant, and they got their strike limit, and they're banned from the channel forever. But everyone that's here right now is the cream of the crop. Thank you so much for all being gold standard human beings. Now remember, Highlander has taught me a great saying, and that's that kindness is free. Remember, kindness is free, and if you hope to have a little kindness back at you, be kind to other people. Think of other people. And let's hope one day we have politicians they have got the philosophy called utilitarianism, and that's where you work to, your actions are based on creating the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. And since we all pay taxes and hire people to represent us, you'd think they'd always work on the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. But unfortunately, because lobbying is essentially legal bribing of politicians, they generally do what's good for corporations, and most Americans and Canadians do not feel like the laws being created are in their best interest. So on that fantastic note, this BS bombshell, we wish you all more. Well, you know what? I'll let you sign out.
Thank you. So we wish you all more cars and more power.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. It does help feed and dress these poodles. And next week, I'll try to get to show photos to show you how the baby room is going. And actually, just before we sign out, Marie shared the world's best meme, and it's a car meme, folks, so you got to check this out. You also check us out on Instagram. I should put this on Instagram. Check us out on Instagram as Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. Check us out on X, please, and as well on Rumble. Rumble is not willing to demonetize users for having opinions that go against the current agenda of pure evil and pedophilia. So Marie tapped me under the table. Hey, at the MTV Awards, young people were twerking their body parts against someone dressed as Satan. Now, if you don't tell me there's an evil agenda at play, I'm not going to believe you. So here, baby size for car guys. So baby size for car guys. So you know what's going on with your baby. Our baby is now at 32 weeks. So you've got 4 weeks. It's like the clock dots. Yeah. And look at that. You've got 5 weeks carb jet, 6 weeks valve stem cap, 7 weeks blade fuse, 8 weeks, your baby's like a little dome light. I won't cover all these. Let's cover the great ones. 11 weeks, you got a shifter knob. We all know what a shifter knob size is. At least real guys do, because we know how to drive manual. You've got at 15 weeks, you've got a hood emblem like on a Mercedes. Now, where are we at? We're at 32 weeks. We've got
it's, the size of a small jack.
We've got the size of a small jack now. Apparently,
just after the headrest.
31 weeks. We're at a headrest.
To give you the size of the jack, because it could be a lot of size, I guess.
We're moving towards the starter. Our baby is going to be the size of a starter. You're carrying around a little car starter in you, baby. That's a fantastic.
I knew you would understand with that chart.
So Marie found me this chart so I can follow the progression of our baby girl. So thank you so much, family, our YouTube family. Take care, folks. Have a great week. God bless everyone, and prayers for your health and wealth.